to just be open to those conversations, to really learn and observe and see what's going on around and get in as many rooms as possible, and maintain those relationships, particularly the ones that were really fulfilling to both of us. I think do really infuse and inform how I go about doing my business and how I can navigate different conversations with people, because I have a little bit of knowledge, but I have a lot of curiosity.
Welcome back to the Low Energy Leads Show. Today, we're celebrating 1 year of the show, 52 whole episodes about how to get leads, how to close leads, and how to get your clients telling other people just how awesome you are. In this episode, we're going to do a little highlight reel, a little best of greatest hits of low energy leads. And if you've come late to the show, or maybe you forgot about some of these episodes we did early on, this greatest hits is for you. We'll start by talking through how to create your low energy lead gen system, and then we'll go through some episodes that touch on that strategy and sort of expand on how you can actually put that in place in your own business. I'm Lex Roman. I empower creatives to make marketing bets they can win. And you're tuned in to the Low Energy Leads Show. Before we continue, we're going to go on hiatus after this episode. I'm not sure if we'll be back. Hopefully we will. But in the meantime, make sure you're getting the Low Energy Leads newsletter. I'm sharing recipes there. I'm sharing resources, tools. We're going to make that a more interesting space, especially as the podcast is on pause. So head over to read.lowenergyleads.com. Make sure you're on that list and forward an issue to a friend. Let someone know how they can get more clients in their business. Here's how we're going to take on this best of episode. Some of you may know I used to work on a TV show called The Office, and we did an episode once that was a clip show. A clip show is an episode where you use a bunch of different episodes from the show to tell a story, sort of catch the audience up. And we don't do a clip show without a 3-act structure. So here's the rundown of where we're heading today. The structure of this episode is aligned about my current thinking about how you can create your low energy lead gen system. The question that this show is asking is, how do we make it easier to find leads? How do we make that sustainable and, keyword, low energy, so you can step off the marketing treadmill and make your marketing work for you? The way that I've been describing this lately is in 3 layers. We've got your bread and butter, which is your relationships, the people that you know, the people that you're meeting, how you build and grow relationships, how that turns into word of mouth. That is your baseline bread and butter of your business. Then we've got making it sticky. You've got to deliver solid value, great results, an excellent promise that you actually deliver on. This is where client experience comes in. This is where clients leaving happy comes in. Delivering solid value, having a reason for people to come back and tell others about you. That's the core of your business. If you're not doing that, your business is not going to last very long. Then the 3rd layer is give them a snack. We want some easy entry points. One will work. Maybe you've got a couple. This is things like social media, newsletters, webinars, places where people can sort of snack on what you're doing, learn how you think, understand how you work, and get to know you in a low friction way before they become a lead, before they identify as a buyer. Those double as great referral spots. So when people are referring you, they're not just saying, oh, hey, here's this person who's buy ready. They're saying, oh, check out their newsletter, check them out on LinkedIn, etc. We'll start with your relationships. A lot of us start our business out by blasting the horn to strangers when we already have a lot of trust with people that we already know. And we might dismiss those people we know. Well, I already know those people. And obviously, if they were a buyer, they would be a buyer. Yes, that might be true. But there's a lot of people you know and a lot of people they know who hold the keys to how you can grow your business. I learned a lesson on this in episode 1. I share how I found clients then and how I find them now. And I spoke about my turning point from when I turned away from the tech industry and into small business land, and how I didn't really know anyone in the small business space. But the longer I tried to tap into that space, the more I started to see, oh, actually, I do know some people who fit into this. And maybe I'm wrong about throwing the baby out with the bathwater in terms of my audience. Here's a little clip from that show where I talk about this moment of transition where I realized that actually more of the people that I knew were coming along with me versus staying behind in a different universe. Later on in the journey of Super Easy, I would say towards the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, I started seeing friends and longtime contacts. So I make a distinction here between past colleagues, which are work-related, and people who are really more in my social network. Those folks started to realize what I was doing, become more aware of it, and started recommending me to people that they knew. So I finally started to get a little bit of a word of mouth engine towards the end of 2021. One thing I didn't understand back then, and back then is 3 years ago, so not that far back then, and this is a mind shift that we've been making in this show, is the idea of reframing networking as community building. And this is something that Christina Bartold Sargota understands. I interviewed Christina in episode 17. We talked about this idea of growing your community. Her podcast is called Build Your Digital Community. Here's how Christina frames that community building.
Social media is about community, like bringing your community together. And the reason why I say that, and growing your community, the reason I say that is because a lot of times people will outsource to a social media team and they're expecting like virality. Like they're like, I want, 10 million followers. I know somebody who has like 60,000 followers, but can't sell a $20 product. So that's not a good ROI, right? Like if you're not able to, right? Like that's not an ideal state. Ideal state is I have people in my network who have 500 followers and sell out every single thing that they do. And it's because they're nourishing that community. So really like my philosophy on being on socials, it's about being social. It's about showing up consistently, connecting with new followers, connecting with existing followers, and trying to funnel them into something that you're doing. And it doesn't have to be I was going to say like a scammy, like, hey, like join this, get in my van. Like, that doesn't, it doesn't need to be that way. I ask you not to invite people in your van from Instagram. I think you will get deleted. But it has to be about like best intentions, building community in a really positive way and making those connections.
Another entrepreneur that understands the importance of networking, and not just networking, but actually building a network of people that you want to hang out with and stay in touch with, is systems strategist Devin Lee. Devin spoke about her conversation a day tracker, and that is a tactic that we've been talking about since that episode aired last summer. Here's Devin to explain.
Is every time I have a coffee chat with someone that I've really connected with, so maybe all my referral partners are in this tracker as well, but maybe I just connect with someone and I'm like, we vibe. I want to stay in touch. I'm looking at it now. I have 75 people in here right now. Always growing. I sometimes remove people if it's just not a good fit, but basically it gives me their name the last time we talked, and then I have notes. So what I can do is every day I open my conversation a day tracker. I see, okay, the person at the very top, because it's sorted by date, the person at the top is the person who I have talked to like in the longest time ago.
I love the conversation a day tracker because it's a very easy mechanic that any of us can implement. I would call it a low energy tactic where you don't try to track everyone that you know. You just try to keep up with a handful of people that you like having a relationship with, that you believe are valuable to your business or your life in some way, that you will keep in touch with. And the idea of just sending a note, adding a comment, DMing someone once a day, maybe a couple times a week, that can be enough depending on your business. That can absolutely be enough. I've seen that work for growth trackers before. Now, if you're in an urgent pinch and you're like, yes, I have all these relationships. I love the slow build. I love deepening and community building, blah, blah, blah. But also I need buyers now, Lex. I hear you. And that's why I love Dana Publicover's advice to book out your calendar. Dana was my first guest on the show, and we spoke about how she rapidly books the calendar with chats, with coffee chats, research chats, to try to get those intros, to try to get her foot in the door, get the lay of the land, and figure out how she can get a client in now. Here's Dana to explain this approach.
Getting as many conversations as you can fit into your day as is possible. And it's a little bit different than filling up with sales calls. These are not sales calls. These are, hey, we have a lot of shared interest, or hey, we have a common customer type or actual customer. Your content looks really interesting. Can we just chat? This is not a sales call. If you say that, people usually think it is a sales call. But just connect with people, because from these calls, you build your network and you meet people you wouldn't normally come up against because you don't have a motive. The motive is just talk to someone. And these people will remember you. And especially if you're super clear on who you're looking for and what you do. Again, going back to my email, this is, You have to know who I need to find, what are they doing right now, and what do I do for them.
Throughout this journey, I've been asking you what you want to hear about, and one of the topics that kept coming up early on was networking for introverts. Y'all recognize that you need to be building relationships, but this idea of networking, building a network, it's scary, particularly if you identify as an introvert. So we did a 3-part series last fall on networking for introverts. We talked about systems, places, and conversations. That series was crowdsourced. So there's over 20 people that contributed to that series. There's clips from them, there's quotes from them. So you get to hear all kinds of different techniques and methods for how to network. One of my favorite tips from that episode came from Jasmine J, who spoke about the idea of dual purpose communities and the idea that you don't just want to enter a space to see what you can take out of it, but you also want to think about what you can contribute. Jay had a great example from her local Chamber of Commerce. Here's Jay's story about dual purpose communities.
I went to my Chamber of Commerce as a new business owner and was like, hi. And thankfully, I say that now, thankfully, they had a portion of the Chamber of Commerce devoted to young professionals. It's actually called Young Professionals Group. And I started going to their mixers. And I found that they didn't have a welcoming committee. And so a light bulb went off. It's like, well, I want to meet people and they don't have a welcoming committee. So I'm going to volunteer. And so that's what I did. Literally, I volunteered to be the welcoming committee so I could greet people and say, hey, I'm new too, and I made a lot of cool friends that way and a lot of connections, friends that are still friends to this day because of stepping up and volunteering.
A dual purpose community is one where you don't just think you'll find buyers and connections there, but also you like being there. You find it interesting. You want to hang out there. The reality of networking and community as strategies for lead gen is that you have to want to stay in those games. You can't just meet someone and be like, bye forever. Let me know if you have a lead. Let me know if you want to buy something from me. You have to keep up with those people. You have to participate in those communities. So it's kind of a dead end if you find stuff that you're only going to go to once. You really want things that really can feel like they have a place in your life, like they have more than one purpose for you. They're not just going to lead to clients. As we close out this section on relationship building, we can't not mention referrals. Over the holidays, I did a 5-part series on getting more referrals. This was actually the lowest listened to episodes on the show, but I think it's because I released it during the holidays. If you need buyers fast, I would always encourage you to go to a referral strategy first before moving on to other marketing techniques. And in that series, I break down how you can go ask for referrals. I do that in a 5-part process. Step by step. That series is super tactical. So go check that out. You can actually sign up on the Low Energy Leads website and get that as a drip campaign too. It's all there for you. Just follow the steps and start getting those referrals in. Have you ever caught yourself giving out your website with a side of, please don't judge my site, it's on my eternal to-do list? Imagine directing someone to your site and instead of bracing for their reaction, you're beaming with pride. Picture your website not just as a digital space, but as your round-the-clock, cape-wearing superhero helping your business grow while you take a nap. Stacey Nichols with Space Cookie Designs is all about elevating your online presence from oops, still working on it to oh wow, you have to see my site. Learn more at thespacecookie.com. Moving on to the second part of our low energy lead gen system. What makes your business last is you being really good at your job. People have to like working with you. You have to deliver stellar results on the promises that you're making people, and you have to have an excellent client experience. These things are table stakes. They're the core of your business. If you're not doing this, your business just isn't going to last that long because people aren't going to have a good time with you. They're not going to tell others. You're going to find it's a grind executing on the work. You're going to find it's a grind marketing your business because you're not going to have any word of mouth engine. So you'll know if this is working, if people are talking about you and sharing the work that you're doing and if they're coming back for more. So we don't cover this too much on the show because my experience with small business owners is that for the most part, y'all are nailing this. You're over executing. If anything, you're doing too much value and not talking enough about how great the work is that you're doing. But if you're feeling like you're stumbling on client experience, maybe it's feeling clunky how you're operating, we have covered this on the show in a few episodes. The first episode I want to talk about is episode 24, how to make your creative business stand out. This is an episode I made because so many of us do the same thing. And we have a lot of competition out there. Whether you're a designer, a writer, a marketer, an SEO strategist, a podcast producer, there's a lot of people doing what we do. And we've got to have an answer to the question, why would people work with us? And those things, those special sauces that we put out there in the market, they need to come through in our client experience. And so that episode, I talk about some of the ways that your client experience can differentiate you. If you've interacted with a service provider of any kind in your day-to-day life, you know how disappointing those interactions can often be. And so you as a service provider can really make yourself stand out by delivering above and beyond, by surprising and delighting people, by being reliable and communicative to them. So one of the things I talk about in that episode is the idea of client offboarding and continuing your relationship with clients. We think so much about client onboarding, we think about closing, but we don't think enough about client offboarding. And if you've ever had a client at all, you have an opportunity to stay in touch with them and to offboard them in a way that makes them want to stay in touch with you. Here's a little taste of that episode. You can also think about things like email communication. Do you want to check in with folks as you're wrapping up a project? I used to do an email offboarding sequence that I would have clients run through that would automatically check in with them and encourage them to schedule time with me for follow-up appointments. I personally like to offboard by putting time in the calendar to connect with people because I'm continuously connecting with clients, whether or not they're still paying me or working with me. They're valuable to keep in touch with. And so I'm always trying to offboard with another touch point and not just say goodbye, but say, I'll see you soon. When it comes to having a dialed in client experience with solid offboarding, no one understands that better than web designer Christy Price. Christy came on the show to talk about how she's built her web design business over the last 24 years. And we spoke about some of the marketing plays that she put into place. We talked about her really successful blog, which has doubled as an extra revenue stream for her. But we also talked about all of the things she's put into place with her client experience, how she's ensured a consistent delivery process that also makes her day-to-day more predictable, while it makes her clients feel taken care of. Christy has a substantial offboarding process that I talked about in both of these two episodes, 24 and 30. It's worth a listen because it's likely that you're under considering your offboarding, and especially when you watch what Christy's doing, it's going to make you think twice about how you hand off something to a client. Christy also sets herself up for success with client experience by vetting clients really well. And so she spoke about how she makes sure that a client is right for her process.
One thing that I do is I ask them to look at my portfolio and choose a project from my portfolio that they like. So I know that something that I've done is aligned with something that they have in their brain, because I think there are people that come to me for websites I know that are not a good fit because they're like, no, I don't want anything like this. I want something like this. And I'm like, well, that's really like a Webflow website. It's not something that I can build for you. It's like a lot more involved than what I do in my 2-week process. So that helps whittle things down. The other thing that I do, because I work in a really quick 2-week build process for my websites, is I only take on clients that have like one decision maker and 1 or 2 stakeholders in the project.
If you're feeling like your audience offer match is a little out of whack, maybe the thing that you're offering isn't quite right for the people coming in the door or vice versa, then you're going to want to listen to episode 27, Figure Out What Your Clients Will Pay For, with Abhishek Kumar. Abhishek is a market researcher, and he spoke about this dance that you do where you're talking to people and you're trying to figure out what they need, what they want, and what they're going to pay for.
Because all of my existing customers at that time were indie hackers. So these were like people building like solo businesses, building like smaller software products, and they didn't have the money to do that. Now, for me as a service provider, that was a problem. And so I started interviewing a bunch of founders who were building scalable startups, or founders who had sold their business and now they were thinking of a new idea. So in these cases, they have either raised money or they already have money through a business that they sold. And that's where I was able to charge from somewhere around like $500 to 4,000. And now my deliverables became, okay, I'll help you validate your idea and do all of these things. And now in the past like couple months, we had a lot of conversations on like me trying to think, okay, how do I get better clients, and then how do I increase my deliverables?
Now, one of the most popular guest episodes is episode 26, Why You Should Consider Productizing Your Services with Philip Wallach. And Philip talks about how you can take your process and package it in a way that you can execute it in a predictable, repeatable way. This idea of productizing services goes one step farther than packaging services. It's really more about your process and operations and not just about the external presentation of how you deliver your work. Here's Philip to explain.
To me, productization is really figuring out what is actually the problem that you're solving and how can you solve that problem with a guided process. So how do you get from A to Z, and how do you get there as effective and efficient as possible? So for example, I've been a UX designer and specialized in design thinking. And these types of projects are very often bespoke projects. They're always one of a kind. Sometimes you do more user research or less research. Maybe you do some more user testing or prototype testing. So it's really hard to say this project, it's almost like a box of cereal that you can grab off the shelf in the supermarket. If all your projects are always different each time, it's very hard to become effective, and that relates directly, of course, to the hourly rate.
Sometimes we think leads are the problem, but it's actually our sales process is the problem. And we're dropping prospects as they come in. We're not moving people along quickly. We're not properly scoping projects. And we're missing a lot of opportunities where people are saying, I'd like to pay you. And then we don't close the deal, right? It's our project to lose, and then we lose those projects. So episode 28 is on my perfect sales system. And I talk about some of the tooling and automations that I would consider putting in place to make sure that this part of your business is a non-issue. I ended up installing HoneyBook maybe a couple years into my business, and this is a tool that I wish I had discovered sooner because I noticed that I was dropping the ball on leads. People would email me or they would submit the contact form on my website, and then if I sent them a note back and I didn't hear from them, I forgot to follow up with them. And I realized I needed to visualize the pipeline of where people were. Had they just submitted an inquiry? Did I get back to them and they didn't book a call? Had they booked a call and I was waiting to have that call? Had I sent a proposal? As soon as I installed HoneyBook, I loaded up all the active inquiries. I realized that I had 6 open inquiries who had not gotten back to me. I bulk emailed them using HoneyBook's tool, and I booked a project off of that action. And in that moment, HoneyBook had paid for itself because I had forgotten about these leads. They had been invisible to me in my email inbox. So let's say you've got a solid offering. Your relationships are cranking at top speed. You're keeping up with everyone. You feel like you've done it all, and yet you could stand to have more choice of clients, or maybe you want to sell something at scale. You're trying your hand at memberships or group programs. That's when you need to widen your funnel. You need easy entry points. I like to call them hangout spots, where people can get to know you, feel out your thinking, get a sense of what you're doing and whether or not they like working with you or buying from you. Hangout spots is really where content marketing comes into play. So I can't tell you how many business owners have said to me, but what do I do if I'm not using social media? And y'all know if you've been here, I de-emphasize social media so substantially. And that's why I made episode 22, which is 22 ways to get leads without social media. You absolutely do not need social media in your life if you don't enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, by all means. But in that episode, I ran down all the different ways that you can create hangout spots and entry points in your business that have nothing to do with social media. From newsletters to live events to conferences to communities, there's all kinds of places to show up, get to know people, and build that trust. Here's a little clip from that episode where I explain the difference between relational marketing and broadcast marketing. I'm splitting today's techniques into 2 buckets, relational and broadcast. I like to split marketing methods into those 2 buckets because I think far too often we see marketing as a one-sided activity. We're throwing something over the wall and hopefully it will land on someone. But actually, for service-based businesses, relational techniques are a stronger play, a more common play, when I see service providers that are in business for 5, 10, 15 years, they're almost always using relational techniques as a huge part of their marketing strategy. This idea that you're just broadcasting out your company and hoping that it will find people, it's actually a strategy I've never seen a company singularly use. Companies are always pairing these two modalities, relational and broadcast, for the best results in terms of finding leads and closing them into sales. Rewinding from that episode, back in episode 11, I talked about deleting Instagram. Last July, I deleted Instagram, and I haven't looked back since. I thought maybe it would be a month-long hiatus from Instagram, but actually it's been so great not having that app on my phone for so many reasons. I haven't needed it. I haven't missed it. Pretty much everyone I was connected to there, I connect with over email or LinkedIn. Occasionally my mom will be like, did you see your cousin had a baby? But then it's like, yeah, I got my mom to tell me that, right? So I don't need that app in my life. I don't think you do either, especially if you hate it. My take is that Instagram is fading overall. It's the least popular social media channel going into the future. This is completely anecdotal. It is completely my opinion. If you're trying to play a social media game, like Instagram is not the game that I would pick right now. If you do like using social media or you just find you can't let it go, then you might want to check out Eleanor Mayerhofer's episode. That's episode 14. Eleanor is a web designer, and she talked about using her podcast as well as LinkedIn as some of her hangout spots. They're ways that she leverages her network, where she's inviting people onto her podcast, and she's also reminding her network of what she's doing on LinkedIn. Here's Eleanor on her LinkedIn strategy.
The gist of it is, and I don't want to like overstate it, like I probably get 30% of my work from LinkedIn, just for some context. You basically turn your profile page into like a landing page. So you kind of talk about what you do, who you do it for. That's not that revolutionary. But then where you have, and I have, if anyone wants to get on my mailing list, I made a like 15-minute explainer video on how I did this. Then instead of your, you know how you kind of list your job or all your different job listings, the first few are actually your offers. You don't put in like, I worked at Sapient. I have those there, but I used to have like this whole long thing, like I was in this role from these years, and these were the outcomes. You get rid of all that and like 3 sentences of stuff that is germane to what I'm doing now. And so you just really edit it down and have it be focused to what you're doing now.
I'm not a big fan of social overall, but if I was going to put my eggs in one basket, it would probably be LinkedIn, simply because it's the lowest effort social media channel we have right now. And it's one of the ones with the highest return because it's a business platform. People are doing business on LinkedIn, unlike other social media platforms, which have a mix of personal and business. I know it can feel really scary to leave social media, and that's why I interviewed Laura Sinclair, who runs a social media marketing agency. Episode 40, we talked about Laura's strategy, which actually did start on social media, but also has moved into more of a relational strategy where she's networking and she's leveraging events and referrals as her main drivers for leads. Laura talks about the role of social media in business, says that it does still have a place, but interestingly points out that if you can't remove social media, you might have a more foundational problem. Here's what Laura said.
Building a business on Instagram, like those days are done. There's a big difference between owning a business and having a social media account. And so what I see is the businesses that are struggling the most right now are the ones that actually lack foundations.
Yeah. Ooh, tell us what those foundations are.
The biggest piece is like having an actual lead generation and lead nurture strategy, like a way to actually build relationships with people over time. And I think that the trap that we fall into is that, oh, they just follow me on Instagram, so I just post there and I show them my stories. Like, that's enough. It's like, well, how many people's names do you actually know? And then like, what other touch points are there? There's an old marketing statistic that's like, somebody needs to see something 7 times before they take action on it. And I think that number, I don't know if they've redone that number. They should, because I'm sure that it's way higher than that now, especially when you think about like how we are just inundated all day long with options and opportunities and like last chances, like all day, every day. Even if you're not a person that hangs out on your phone, you go for a drive, you watch TV, like you're listening to the radio, it's constant.
When I'm diagnosing someone's business, I'm trying to figure out why they're not closing enough leads. They're often missing that trust building space. And for me, that space is my email list. You've heard me talk about it on this show endlessly. My email list is the space where I build trust with my audience. In episode 15, I ran down my email list experiments where I talked about email list growth, because I also use my email list as a visibility strategy. My email list has so much utility in my business. It also is its own revenue stream now. I have sponsors on there. And it also is a great referral strategy. People can forward that to other people, and those people can get on my list. Not everyone's a big fan of email, though, and I totally get that. Another honorable mention here for the Selling Digital Products series. When it comes to these easy entry points, some of us turn to low-cost offers, one-off things like trainings, workbooks, downloads, and I wanted to explore this in depth. So we did that this year with a series on selling digital products. Here's a highlight from the episode with Chris Wynn, which was the last episode in that series where Chris talked about doubling his revenue. Chris sells primarily digital products. Here's one of my favorite takeaways from him about naming.
First, when I tried to bundle the products, I said, okay, what about you can buy UX Playbook, you can buy UX Management Playbook, and you can buy UX and Management Playbook together. It's a bundle. But then I just called it that. Like I just said, you get UX Playbook and Management Playbook. And that's the name. Yeah, so it's just like, what? That's the product name. But then when I changed it to like, when I had more products, the junior designer bundle, the senior designer bundle, it improved revenue so much more. It was a significant bump. I can't tell you the exact metrics, but we did see like resonate with more like folks who are like, oh yeah, I want to be a junior, right? Or folks that I want to be a senior, or I'm already a senior. So I think naming your products based on the persona is super interesting. And for us, it worked really well.
To cap this all off, if you're thinking, Lex, where do I even start? It's all going so wrong. I'm going to point you to episode 4, which is called What to Do When Your Marketing Isn't Working. In that episode, I break down a technique called discovery boards, which is something that I've used with companies since 2014, maybe even before that, where I would break down every different component of their business and figure out, okay, what parts of this is working and what parts aren't? Where's our opportunity? Here's a quick quote from that episode to get you started. What do I think is going wrong? What are my assumptions about what might be causing an issue or friction at any step of this process, right? Someone starts, they have the best of intentions to get through. Where are they getting lost? What do I think is going wrong? For me, it's been really helpful to map this out. I've done this on pretty much every growth project I've worked on since 2014, and it always helps me see visually where the gap is. It is a great way to focus your attention on what's actually going wrong versus things you wish were better or areas where someone gave you feedback, but it's like actually not rooted in any data. So it really helps you get clear on where do you have information, where do you not have information, and where should you be focusing your time and energy. So there we have it, the greatest hits of low energy leads. I've summarized a lot of these lessons in the Stay Booked roadmap and in the Rev Your Referral system. Both of those are available in my shop. And I'm always thinking about how can I make this stuff even easier to action on in your business? Can we make it more plug and play? I'd be curious what's missing for you, what feels hard, what's blocking you from getting more leads and closing more clients. What's making this high energy when we want it to be low energy? If you dig the show and you want more tips on booking clients, get on the Low Energy Leads newsletter. You knew I was going to say that. I'm planning to do more recipes and events over there. I'm also thinking about doing a challenge, a crossover challenge between growth trackers and low energy leads. So I'm excited to keep talking via email. You can always reply to me there. I would love to hear from you. I'm not sure what the future holds for this show. Like I said, we're going to go on hiatus and we're going to see what's going on as we hit the summer. When I started Low Energy Leads, my main intent was honestly to bring on guests and deepen relationships with partners and sort of create a stronger word of mouth engine. It's shifted to me wanting it to be its own revenue stream. It's simply too much labor to be worth it for the purpose that I originally intended. And that's why it's not quite a win right now. I can connect with partners. I can deepen relationships in other ways that are not this podcast. This podcast is one of the highest energy ways that I market my business and keep up with relationships. So while I love it, while I love platforming people that I care about, while I love sharing their brilliance with you, it simply is my highest effort, lowest impact project in the mix right now. And so that's why it's going on break. What would change that would be for it to be growing organically, for that audience to grow faster so that it could be monetized at a rate where it would compensate for the amount of work that it takes. But at this point it doesn't. And that's always a good lesson for us with any of our marketing endeavors or any of the projects we take on. Will this thing pay me back? And on that note, until next time, keep your energy low until you know the value will be high.